Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty, and the moonlight overthrew you. Well, she tied you to her kitchen chair, broke your throne and cut your hair, and from your lips she drew hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Again, good morning. Welcome to the Greerton Bible Church today on this Thursday, the 7th of October 2021, as we come to share in the service for Jean Kathleen Brown, as we come to share tributes, as we come to listen to music, as we come to sing, as we come to share Bible readings, as we come to celebrate her life. My name is Mike Savage, and it's my privilege to conduct the service here today within this church. Quite a few years ago, I was part of the Brown family as we looked after Jean's husband, Dennis. That's going back a few years. And so to you, her children, I thank you for the privilege of being here today to lead this service. In a moment, we're going to share in a prayer, and then the family have produced a service sheet, which you all have, I hope, which inside the service sheet there are words of two songs, and on the back there is a third one, and we're going to be singing. Yes, we're going to be singing. And you can take off your masks. It'll be lovely to hear your voices as we sing How Great Thou Art, Because He Lives, and on the back is Amazing Grace, as Jean's casket is carried out to the hearse. My privilege following our first hymn of How Great Thou Art to share in the eulogy, and that's an overview of Jean's life. Then there'll be tributes from family, an opportunity for those of you who are not family. There's an invitation to invite you to come here to the microphone and for you to share a short personal tribute of your relationship with Jean in your form of the tribute. We will then have tributes from grandchildren. A Bible reading from Psalm 23, which Glennis will come and read to us. Then we'll take a look at the screen and watch a photo montage with a special song that has been chosen by the family to accompany those photos. There's another Bible reading which Blair will come and read to us out of Philippians 4. And then we have the next hymn, Because He Lives. Following the conclusion of that hymn, we'll ask you to remain standing while we offer the words of committal and commendation. That's committing Jean's physical body to be cremated, to commend her into God's care and keeping. And then a blessing. And then Don, our funeral director, will come forward along with the pallbearers, and we will carry Jean out to the hearse to the hymn which is on your back of the service sheet, Amazing Grace. Outside at the hearse, and an opportunity for you to say farewell, to place a flower on her casket. And I see that there are some bubble tubes outside, which I think Grandies may be blowing bubbles over the hearse as that leaves for the crematorium. And then Jean's family invite you into the reception lounge or the social hall at the back to share in further memories over a time of cup of tea, coffee, juice, and something to eat. There are tables there for you to be seated at. So you come to the table in the middle, the plates, your food, and then you go and sit down. So again, welcome, and thank you for being here on behalf of the family. We welcome those who are watching this service live stream welcome to Tauranga. To you, Chris, and your family in Australia, we welcome you. To Darwin, Glennis, we remember Calvin, Susie, Nikki, and 20 grandchildren. Are you all here? Close? Many of you are, so welcome to you, Nana's grandchildren. And of course, in the committal, the words of committal, her body to be cremated into God's care and keeping, that she would rest in peace. Also that she would rest with her husband, Dennis. So welcome today. Let's begin this service with a prayer. A privilege indeed to stand here within this your house, Heavenly Father, to share the memories and the life of Jean Kathleen Brown. We thank you for her life. We thank you for her gifts and skills that were granted by you, and that she was able to use them to be a wife, a mother, a nana, an auntie, a sister. And so today we as family gather here to celebrate her life, to share in her memory, to say farewell, to commit her to you, to commend her to your care and keeping, and also that you may this day and the days ahead bless her family. May they know a sense of your peace, may they know a sense of the covering of your Spirit upon their lives for this day and the days ahead. Of course, we bring this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Now, time for you to sing. So would you like to stand? Those who have your mask on, you're welcome to take them off. And we're going to sing How Great Thou Art. Thank you, Kirsty. O Lord my God, in awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sing and they proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Well done to you. Please be seated. After enjoying that sing, let's now share in an overview of Jean's life. That's called the eulogy. So Jean Kathleen Wassell, is that how you pronounce Wassell? Was born at 43 Prospect Terrace, Mount Eden in Auckland, the home of her grandmother. She was born on the 27th of March 1936. The daughter of William Joseph Wassell and Gertrude Eva Marshall. She was the second child of 5, which included an older sister Maureen and younger siblings Raymond, Pamela and Frederick. Jean began her schooling at Dominion Road Primary School 1941 to 1946, then moved on to Balmoral Intermediate School in 1947 and 1948. Then attended Seddon Memorial Technical College on Wellesley Street, Auckland from 1949 to 1951. Jean's father wasn't around as he was in the Navy during the war, and she vividly recalled 2 special outings when she was at home. On the first trip, he took Maureen and Jean to the children's Christmas party at the naval base. The second outing was when Bill took them for a drive in the car that had only ever sat in the garage. And that was to Mission Bay Beach. She said it was the only time the family had ever been allowed in that car. She also remembered that outing well because she and Maureen got very badly sunburnt. It appears from all accounts Jean was quite a mischievous child. Some of the stories include dressing her brother Fred up as a girl to take him for walks, climbing a 7 foot up a fruit tree to the roof of the woodshed, then jumping off, climbing up into the ceiling cavity of the washroom and also wandering off. Some of you grandchildren don't do that, do you? No. As a toddler, Jean decided it would be a good idea to visit the farm's prize bull. She was spotted by her father and uncle just in time. Apparently, the bull was head down, pawing out the ground, ready to charge. One of the men stood outside the fence waving a piece of cloth. How brave. To catch the bull's attention, and the other, with a pitchfork in hand, ran into the paddock, scooped Jean up, and ran as fast as possible. Jean says that is probably why she never liked cattle. At 2.5 years old, Jean wandered away from home again. The police and the whole neighbourhood had been out looking for her when she was found about a mile down the railway line, which is approximately 1.6 k's. As a child, Jean spent a lot of time with her nana having etiquette lessons and learning all the attributes a woman should have, such as cooking, sewing and needlework. She put these skills to good use, gaining a summer job in a sewing factory. And at the age of 12, she worked 40 hours a week to earn money to help out the family and pay for her high school uniform. Jean's dad, having left the family home permanently in 1945, she remembers navigating using an industrial sewing machine for the first few times, and how she put the needle straight through her finger. Ouch. As a teenager, she enjoyed attending dances and indoor bowls with her mother and roller skating, swimming and cycling with Maureen. Jean did not own her own bicycle, and she would borrow one from one of her aunties. To get to the bike, she had to walk to the tram stop, ride on the tram for 1.5 sections, then walk to her place, then bike home before even starting the day out. They would sometimes take bike rides around Waikowhai area, and at other times venture further afield. One time they cycled as far as Hobsonville Air Force Base, which was a round trip of approximately 60 k's. Jean says it was because Sister Maureen wanted to see the boys in blue. Jean began work as a shorthand typist for Bill Duthie Voice & Co. in January of 1952, while also attending night school 3 times a week. She stayed there for some time, then moved to Smith & Brown's in Simon Street, Wiseman's Sports Store in Queen Street, then became secretary for a Chinese importer, Norman Du, in 1954 and 1955. During this time, Jean began to attend some social events with her work friend Joan. At the age of 18, she caught the eye of one Dennis Brown, who informed Joan very early on that he was going to marry Jean. Well, they soon became an item, got engaged in January 1954 and married on the 15th of April 1955. Well, it's got 55 here. 16th of April 1955? Yeah. Dennis and Jean also spent a lot of time socialising with their close friends Pam and Des, who they remained close with all their lives. During their engagement, Dennis took Jean to visit his mother in Palmerston North. To get there, she had to travel as a pillion passenger in the sidecar of Dennis's motorbike. Jean arrived in Palmerston North wearing a trench coat and, heaven forbid, slacks underneath. The mother-in-law did not approve. Ladies, in her opinion, were not supposed to wear trousers. Jean found it amusing that many years later her mother-in-law found long pants to be very comfortable and practical and wore them all the time. Jean worked for a short time after marriage for Blythe Harper at Lincoln Industries. 3 hours, in fact. Apparently, her boss received a phone call on her first morning there informing him that Jean was to go straight home to bed. There was a TB epidemic, and Jean's latest chest x-ray had showed a shadow on her lung. Bed rest, district nurse visits, streptomycin injections 3 times per week and 8 tablets per day that were the size of a dollar coin. That was her life for the next 3 months. In memoirs, Jean writes of the severe isolation and loneliness she felt during this period with only cows for company. We're no different today, are we? After marriage, Dennis and Jean lived in Flatbush Workers' Cottage on Betty and Elliot Kent's farm, then on Harbour View Drive, Onehunga, and the front room at 26 Paro Street for about 6 months, before shifting into a rented house in Church Street, Te Pāpapa. Dennis had purchased a bakery in Te Pāpapa, and Jean helped out as able in 1956 and 1957. And then she worked full-time in the home cookery on Broadway Ave, Palmerston North in 1957 to 1961, in between having 3 children. The family lived in a 3-bedroom accommodation attached to the shop for 2 years, then rented an old house along from the home cookery. Dennis and Jean built a new home in Roberts Line, Palmerston North, and lived there from October 1961 to 1965. The family then sold up and relocated here to Tauranga. Firstly living at 181 Waihi Road, then a rented house at 34 Pukapu Road, which is now Automoto Road, where number 4 child Calvin was born. In May 1968, the family shifted into their newly built home at 12 Sharon Place in the new subdivision of Brookfield, Tauranga. And in 1971, the family welcomed Susie, and then in 1974, Nikki was born. During this time, Jean assisted in their hi-fi shops, firstly at 60 Elizabeth Street, Visions Hire, and then the Sonus shops during the period of 76 to 1990. During the time that Chris, Delwyn and Glennis were young, the family had holidays in tents, mostly in family members' backyards, but once or maybe twice they stayed in a motor camp in Auckland called Tui Glen. Trips out of town were almost exclusively to visit family. For leisure, Dennis and Jean and the 3 children would go tramping in the Kaimais and surrounding areas. Jean became a Girl Guide leader and Dennis a Scout leader. And many times the family were tenting with the Scouts and doing day hikes. Once Calvin was born, it was slightly more awkward to go hiking as he was a bonny boy. In 1984, the family suffered the tragic loss of Calvin in a car accident at the age of 18. Jean recalls that this tragedy, as well as the love and support shown to the family during this time, made her reevaluate what was important in her life. She decided in 1987 to embark on some study so that she could in turn support others, gaining a certificate in Community and Social Studies, Level 1 and 2 certificates in Community Counselling, and then a Pathway Counselling course through the Automoto Bible Chapel. Jean also credits friends Kath Opie and Rosemary Diprose. Now, you're here, Rosemary, aren't you? Yes. And a friend for over 60 years, Pamela Ferry, for helping her through both her spiritual and life journey. Jean enjoyed gardening and was a fastidious housekeeper. She sewed, knitted, crocheted, embroidered, cross-stitched, and spent times doing smocking, harding it. Many an outfit for a school social, a special event, a wedding or ball gown was lovingly sewed by Jean for one or other of the children or grandchildren. She was a perfectionist. Susie and Nikki remember well the time she spent many days and nights sewing a beautiful puffy mauve taffeta ball gown for Susan's 7th form ball. In fact, she finished the dress just in time for Susie to go out to the pre-dinner, and she had to race home and collect the lace overskirt that Jean was working on before heading off to the ball. When Susie and Nikki were growing up, they remember going to town on a Friday night as a family where they would all receive a soft serve ice cream from Woolworths. Remember going to Woolworths? And Dennis and Jean would buy pick and mix chocolates to take home. The 4 of them would often have meals out together. Was that chocolate and ice cream? Oh, right. Well, travel around the North Island for Dennis's business. During that time, they would visit with Jean's sister Pamela or the Ferries in Auckland and the Kents in Hamilton. A favourite place to stay was in the cabins at Awakeri Hot Springs. During their marriage, Dennis and Jean enjoyed travelling overseas, including trips to Fiji, Norfolk Island, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, England, Ireland, Paris, and Scotland. They travelled for business, pleasure, and for family events. After Dennis retired, he and Jean spent a lot of time travelling around New Zealand in the Mitsubishi L300 high-top van that Dennis had converted into a mini camper, way before it was fashionable to do so. After Dennis's passing, Jean lived on her own and was very reclusive for many years, gradually venturing out to time out craft lessons, or to have a cup of tea with neighbours Anne and Cyril. She spent most of her time tending the house and gardens, with selling up and moving into a granny flat attached to Susie's in Devonport Road. When Susie built her own new home in Pies Bar, Jean moved to a room within Susie's place, where she remained until recently. Since being widowed, Jean travelled overseas with Darwin and Susie, and with Fred and Joan to Australia on several different trips. Jean was ecstatic to catch up with you, Chris, during one of those trips. Jean also went on 2 cruises with Glenys, Susie and Whānau around the Pacific Islands. More recently, Jean has enjoyed attending Granny Daycare. This is a social gathering of senior citizens who would go for outings, hold quizzes, play card games, enjoy hot lunches, and occasionally listen to guest speakers. During the last couple of months, Jean's health began to deteriorate, and it was decided that she would move into Hodson House for a trial period. Unfortunately, COVID-19 lockdown happened, and she remained there during this time. Her health continued to deteriorate, and she spent a lot of time in and out of hospital. For the most part, she was still cognitively intact. However, after the second fall in 6 days, she floated in and out of consciousness and did not recognise the family, and Jean sadly passed away that night. However, it was very peaceful at the last, with her family at her side. A lovely overview of Jean Brown's life. Before we invite family to come and share a tribute, let me just share this with you. To Mum, you gave me life to live as I please. You gave me love and support to follow my dreams, even if you didn't always agree with my choices. Your beauty and kindness lives forever deep in my soul. The memory of your love fills my heart, and I will never be alone. Love you always, Chris. So family, those of you who wish to come and share, we invite you to do that. And please come to the microphone, share your memories for each of us, and particularly for those online. Thank you.
So I've written, I'm not a public person, but I am a woman who's a believer in Christ. In his word, the Bible, Exodus 20 verse 12, he tells us to honour our parents. So today, I'll try to put aside myself, and as the Bible also says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And that was the verse in the Bible reading this morning. Mum lived for 85 and a half years. Through that time, she went through many seasons weather-wise. That is over 342 changes from summer, autumn, winter, spring, and back again. As it is for many of us, Mum had seasons in her life that were extremely tough. Also like us, Mum had lots of good seasons. The joyous seasons far outweighed the sad seasons, but God allows sad times to help us appreciate the good times. Just think of the COVID lockdowns, and the latest ones, and how much we now appreciate the joy of being outside our bubble and having takeaways. During Mum's 85 years, she went from being a second daughter to being a big sister, a girlfriend, a fiancée, a wife and mother, nana and great-nana. Each season had a purpose and a plan, as God knew the number of her days from before she was born till the day she died. God created Mum's DNA, and he knew that around 25% of us here today would carry that DNA in our genes. Mum grew up in an era when times were tough, money was scarce, there were food restrictions, lack of the basics. It taught her how to manage with little. Sometimes growing up we felt Mum was stingy, but we never went hungry except by our choice of not eating the food provided, just because we didn't like it. Mum could cook our Mum could cook, but our main meals were mostly of the meat, spud and 3-veg variety, followed by a pudding. Now, a lot of us love that, and some of you like a different thing every day. To us, rice risotto was exotic and unappetising. Our tastes have changed. Our clothing was always clean and ironed, and most of it was made lovingly by Mum. No store-bought clothing till our teens. Even my girls' college uniforms, winter and summer, were sewn by Mum, and I had a knitted cardigan for college. No money for a school jersey for me. All 4 of us girls were taught by Mum to bake and to sew. I've only sewn basic stuff, but all 3 of my sisters have shown their talent in what they can create. My baking is what I have excelled in, which is equally from Mum and Dad's lessons. When you stop and think about it, many of Mum's experiences of life have been mirrored in our lives. Single parenthood, medical challenges, miscarriage, losing a child, and widowhood. No season of her life has been uniquely hers, but until we were in those situations, we never realised how alike we were. In these COVID times, like the sign outside says, let us count our blessings, not our problems. Each of us children have a different view of life, of how life was at home, but even though there was 18 years between Chris, the eldest, and Nikki, the youngest, Mum always did what she thought was best for us at the time. Her legacy will live on in each of us in different ways. Unfortunately, one thing I didn't get from Mum is the fastidious cleaning gene. Just ask Nikki. She cleaned my stovetop last night. Thank you, Nikki.
Despite having a strained relationship with Mum growing up, over the last 10 years we've built a special relationship, one of love and friendship. There are so many things I've enjoyed during this time. I've enjoyed getting to know her. I loved hearing the little stories about the train rides to work and the miles she had to walk, about Mum and Dad's friendship with Auntie Pam and Uncle Des. She gave me other glimpses that have been covered in the eulogy. I've loved her sense of humour. This was even proven in her last days, as she was laughing to herself a lot, and the last laugh on us after reading her notebook she had written regarding her funeral. I loved exploring with her and going on adventures, especially when we went on the first cruise with Susie, where I became close to Mum. I enjoyed exploring the ship, the islands, and relaxing with her. What I didn't enjoy was taking her shopping for clothes. It would take her an hour just to choose a pair of underwear or socks, and then often not even buying them. I loved our chats, many of them reminiscing, and others got deep and raw. We talked about regrets. She regretted that she didn't have the close relationship with me and my daughters. But one of the memories Mum had of me as a child was me questioning everything. I was one of those kids who always asked why more than once. I left home when I got married at 17 and made her a nana when she was only 43. She wasn't impressed. She was also made a great nana when she was only 66. Nevertheless, Mum and I started to develop a friendly relationship when I returned from Dunedin. Since then, I've loved watching her enjoy her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She loved when any of them got to visit or when she came to milestone birthday parties. I love how Mum got dressed up for Chantal's 21st birthday party, which was a 1920s theme, and my own Disney-themed 60th. Mum came as Minnie Mouse, ears and all. Even last week, when Kelly brought Charlotte into the hospital, Mum lit up and paid attention as Charlie showed her photos of her pet lamb. Mum, I love you and I'll miss you. I'll miss you being at Susie's, your presence, listening to you talk about your day, what you've done in your garden, and what happened at Enliven. I'll miss telling you about things that I've been doing and where I've been going, and I'll miss you sharing your treats with me. I'm happy that you can breathe easy and that you're out of pain now. I know you'll be riding in the sidecar with Dad, or dancing on the stairway to heaven, or catching up with all the others that made it there before you. I'd love to finish with a poem by Dolores M. Garcia, If Roses Grow in Heaven. If roses grow in heaven, Lord, please pick a bunch for me. Place them in my mother's arms and tell her they're from me. Tell her I love her and miss her, and when she turns to smile, place a kiss upon her cheek and hold her for a while. Because remembering her is easy, I do it every day, but there's an ache within my heart that will never go away. I love you.
I'll give this a go. Mum was a beautiful, kind, gentle lady, quietly spoken and proper. She was a fantastic mother to me and Nana to my children. Mum and I became very close 18 years ago when Dad passed away. I moved into a rental behind her house in Sharon Place. Sorry, there is some repeating because I just wrote this. I moved into a rental behind her house in Sharon Place before later subdividing and building on the family home. It was at that point in my life that I was busy fostering preschool children. Mum also became approved as a SIFS caregiver so that she could help with the children and look after them at times. I remember one time she returned from a holiday to find that I had several placements at once, and she also had one, a little baby sister of one of the children I had. Mum enjoyed a couple of weeks of providing a safe and caring home for that baby. Mum helped out a lot with the children in the early days of us living beside each other. When we moved to Devonport Road, Mum lived in an attached granny flat that we built. Each morning when I went to drop the other children at school in kindy, Mum would look after Tatiana and give her her bottle or breakfast. As the years progressed, Mum's health deteriorated, and it became my turn to help Mum, taking her to appointments, making phone calls for her, cooking her meals and taking them over, until we decided it would be easier if she lived in a room in my house. I built a house opposite Althorpe Retirement Village with the idea that Mum would eventually go there and we would still be close. Mum preferred to be at home with me, Alston, Tamal, Bianca and Tatiana. Even amongst my busy, somewhat challenging at times life, Mum was happy at home with us. We shared so many special times, trips away, outings, etc. Mum liked it when I had a sewing mission on, as it meant that I would be in the lounge with her and we would chat about all sorts while I was sewing. She shared her sewing knowledge with me and gave me tips that improved my skills. Mum was always a very tidy, clean and organised lady. I'm not sure why I don't follow in her footsteps either. Mum liked it when I had the bi-monthly Foster Care Association meetings in her lounge, as it would always get an extra big spruce up. Mum held on to a lot of things. She didn't like to part with things even when broken, as in her era, things were fixed rather than replaced. When the jug stopped working a few years ago, it took me months to convince her that it would cost more to fix it than buying 2 jugs. Waste not, want not was a motto of hers. Birthday paper was ironed and reused, as were lots of things. I wouldn't call her a hoarder, more of a keeper, as everything had its place and was organised and tidy. Mum loved a good cup of tea. What was important to her quality of life, particularly over the past year, was family, friends, food she enjoyed, and a good cup of tea. Her cup of tea had to be made in a teapot with loose leaf tea and served in fine china. When she was in hospital this year, I would take her tea to her in a thermos, as she hated their tea. But at Hodgson House she liked theirs. This was a key factor in her deciding she would like to stay there after respite. Mum loved carrot cake, closely followed by fruit cake, and Darwin's chocolate eclairs and English tarts. Mum's favourite takeaway was KFC over the past few years. In fact, this was the last full meal she ate: potato and gravy, a chicken drumstick and a couple of chips. Mum had great intuition when it came to men. It wasn't Dad's approval our boyfriends needed, it was Mum's. She also would approve or disapprove of her granddaughter's boyfriends. Most recently, in her last week, approving of Chantel's boyfriend Josh, he reminded her of Dad. Mum loved to garden and to spend time in the garden. She also loved flowers and listening to the birds singing. We knew Mum's health was deteriorating, but still neither of us knew how quick the end was to be. I am so grateful that we got to spend lots of time together over what turned out to be her last weeks. By spending 5 nights in hospital the last week, it meant that lots of family had the opportunity to visit her rather than be restricted with the visiting rules of COVID. That time was precious, more than I realised at the time. At least I got to tell you how much I love you, Mum, and how me and my children will miss you so much. Mum had wanted to get out of hospital and return home to Hodgin House or our home. Her wish had been for her last few weeks to be at home with me and the kids, but this didn't eventuate as she deteriorated faster than expected. Darwin, Glennis and I took turns at staying with her. She hadn't wanted to die alone and didn't have to. I was allowed to stay overnight with Mum at the end. I got to give her one last kiss on the forehead, good night, like I did each night over the past couple of years when I tucked her into bed. I held her hand most of the evening, and I'm sure she knew I was by her side. Mum left a notebook with instructions in for her passing. In that notebook was a little jewel. She said, "Be very sure I'm deceased before sending me away, and not just extremely cold and very low blood pressure." I'm sure that came from an article out of the That's Life magazines that Alston and I have been buying her over the last few years. A mother holds her children's hands for a short while, but their hearts forever. Mum, you'll be in my heart forever. I'm going to miss you.
Thank you to Darwin, Glennis, Susie, for each of you sharing your wonderful memories of your mum, for being taught her cooking, sewing, baking type skills, the love and friendship that you shared, her humour, not so much going out shopping with her, the times that you remember sharing with her, being able to care for her in her last few weeks. And while I sat listening to your tributes for her 85 years here on this earth, she gave people time. For you as her children, she gave you her time. And then as you each got older, you were able to reciprocate that by giving back to her your time. How precious. You were able to do that, and Darwin, I acknowledge, out of Exodus 20, the commandment, honour your parents, for you will live long in the land. An opportunity for those of you who wish to come and share a tribute. We invite you to do that, and then we'll call the grandchildren to come and share their memories of their Nana. Is there anyone else? I see you about to move, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie. Everybody will know my voice because I rang everybody. Ticked you all off today, and I'll do my best. I had thought of lots of things to say about Auntie Jean from over the years, but just one thing that I used to come to visit when I was younger. And talking about Darwin with our meals. And I know that I used to make her mad lots of times. But anyway, one time she was dishing up dinner and I said, no, Auntie Jean, sorry, I don't eat pumpkin. And she said, you'll eat the pumpkin or go to the laundry. And so I said, okay. So I went to the laundry. So anyway, next day, because I used to go on the school holidays, so next day I was put back on the bus with a note home. And I got home and Mum said, what happened? I went, pumpkin. She said, did you not tell her? I went, Okay, rightio then. So anyway, that's it for me. So I would like to read out, hopefully I'll get through the end of this, on behalf of Fred, who's the youngest. So also just to say I'm the only one that could come because of COVID. So Uncle Ray is now the eldest. He is in Whangarei, so he couldn't come. His eldest daughter, I normally can talk the back end of a bus, but anyway, never mind.
You would have found that out already in the phone call.
I know, exactly. RSI of the ear. Anyway, so Angela and Aidan couldn't come from Auckland, and Uncle Fred and Auntie Joan couldn't come from Whangarei. So anyway, here we go. Good morning to family and friends from Jean Brown, Knee Wassel. I am sorry that I'm unable to be here with you today to remember Jean, due to my own health issues, health problems, and COVID. Sister Jean was born on the 27th of March 1936 at her grandmother's home at 43 Prospect Terrace, Mount Eden, Auckland. Life wasn't easy for Jean or us all, as our parents divorced soon after I was born and our mother had to find work to raise us. Times were not easy, but there were good times as well. Mum tried each year to make sure that we had a holiday. So for several years we would pack up an old canvas tent and go camping next to the beach at Surdale, it's not a typo, on Waiheke Island. Only a short trip of about 3.5 hours from Auckland. In the 1950s, things changed as a young man by the name of Dennis Brown arrived on the scene. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. They lived in Auckland and had a bakery for a while, with Jean working alongside Dennis. And then they moved to Palmerston North to help Dennis's mother's bakery, which they eventually took over. Living at the back of the shop, and later a new house was built in Roberts Line, Palmerston North. The next move was to Tauranga, Dennis first and then Jean following later, after completing the sale of the house, packing the car, I think a little Morris, with the last bits and pieces, and of course the children, and driving all the way on her own to Tauranga. A few years after her marriage, I moved to Motueka as an Uncle Fred, and we lost touch for several years, coming back together in the 1980s, keeping in touch and visiting with Jean, making the long drive from Tauranga to Motueka by herself several times. It was great to accompany Jean to Australia in 2019-2020 to see her granddaughter dancing, and for us to take her on her trips around Melbourne. And for the subsequent times since that, we have got together and reminisced about the old days of our childhood. Jean, it was a privilege to have had you for a sister. But it is time to say goodbye. You have earned your rest. Rest in peace, your brother Fred. Thank you.
I know the grandchildren are speaking later, but Maddie, my 10-year-old, actually wrote this herself, and she's decided last minute that she doesn't want to speak, so I'm just going to read it on her behalf. I didn't know Great Nana Jean very well, but I did know this. She was a kind, caring and loving person, and though at the end, when she was in pain, she managed to remain pure of heart and was kind to those around her. Although I am just 10 and a half years old, 2 members of my family are now gone forever. First David, and now my great nana, Jean Kathleen Brown. She now holds a very special place in my heart, along with the rest of my family and friends, and will stay with me until the day I die, in my heart and also in my memory. She will stay with the rest of us too. God will make sure of that. Surely she is happy now and can get away from the pain and suffering. She will be with my great papa now. Nothing would probably make her happier than being with him. Now I would like to mention those who are here today and have suffered from the greatest offence I can think of, the loss of their mother. So Chris, Delwyn, Glenys, Susie and Nikki. I feel for you and all the others who join me in the mourning of this wonderful lady who has surely blessed this family. Because without her, I wouldn't even be here at all. The Lord will make sure we don't forget her. I certainly won't. She has moved on, and soon we may too. May her spirit be with us. So that was from Maddie.
Julie, thank you for sharing your tribute, your own personal tribute, first of all, about the relationship that you had with your Auntie Jean, been sent home on the bus early. But then sharing the tribute from your Uncle Fred, included with Uncle Raymond and Pamela, and sharing those memories and the relationship that they had with their sister Jean. And Maddie, for your tribute, thank you, sharing about a kind Nana, that you'll remember her within your heart and within your memory, and that she is resting with great Papa, but also that the Lord will take care of her as he will with you also. So thank you for your tribute. Grandchildren, Ashley, Chantel, Kelly and Tatiana, would you like to come and share your memories, please?
I don't have many memories with Nana because we weren't that close when I was younger. But I do remember when Chantal and I stayed between Nana's place and Auntie Susie's. And on my weeks with Nana, we would always have meat and 3 veg. And then after dinner, we would sit and help her do whatever skidge puzzle it was that she was doing at that time. And every morning when I stayed, before I went to school, we would sit down and eat breakfast together. In the last year, we have grown even closer. I loved arriving on a Thursday to work, and when the van pulled up to drop Nana home from Gunny daycare, Auntie Susie and I would take turns. One would turn on the oxygen and go open the garage door and then go out and get Nana from the van, and the other one would turn the jug on to make Nana's cup of tea and get her a sweet treat to go with it. I especially liked that last one because I would take her afternoon tea in and I would get to sit down and ask her how her day was. And dinner time I would take her dinner into her lounge and have to wake her up from a nap because she was always tired after granny daycare. I loved sitting and chatting to Nana about her old stories about her and Papa and how her week had been. I really miss that. Love you, Nana, and I'll miss you lots. My sister Hayley, who can't be here today, has asked me to read a poem out for Nana. It's titled God Looked Around His Garden. God looked around his garden and found an empty place. Then he looked down upon the earth and saw your tired face. He put his arms around you and lifted you to rest. God's garden must be beautiful. He always takes the best. He knew that you were suffering. He knew you were in pain. He knew that you would never get well on earth again. He saw the road was getting rough and the hills were hard to climb. So he closed your weary eyelids and said, "Peace be thine." It broke our hearts to lose you, but you didn't go alone, for part of us went with you the day God called you home.
Next. So my mum and my aunties all said they didn't get Nana's cleaning genes, and I'm very proud to say that I got those cleaning genes. As all my sisters know, that my house is always spotless, yep. 2 of us got them. But my beautiful fighter, you fought till the end. I'll always remember your quiet, stern but loving voice as you spoke to me. And over the last few years, as we've sat there and you've told me about your childhood and growing up, it showed me this other side to you. The love you had for your parents, your siblings, your wider whānau. The love you have for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and all the other loved ones. You loved unconditionally and without holding anything back. You taught me God first always. You were humble, kind, selfless, giving, and you loved to just sit and chat about anything and everything. I came to live with you when I was 10 years old. You had raised 6 of your own children, but you still loved and raised me like your own during the time I was with you. You put me back together. Your stern and loving voice taught me right from wrong. Your loving hugs, I remember curling up on the couch with you. I'd nestle under your arms and you'd read me all sorts of books. Mainly Jemima Puddle Duck, Smokey Bear, Benjamin Barton. You did my Bible story and my devotion with me every day. And other days, you'd simply tell me stories about growing up and my dear Papa. I remember you always had a box of roses in your pantry. And I remember I snuck a few extra without asking. You growled me good. But then that night and every night after, there was a chocolate on my pillow waiting for me. Thank you for always supporting my dreams and cheering me on no matter what, or where my dreams led me. You would watch all my dance videos, and you came and watched me in a few of my shows. Your clap was always the loudest in my ears. Your approval of Josh meant everything to me, and Auntie Susie mentioned. But when we first started dating, after you met him, you pulled me aside and told me he was such a nice young man, and he reminded you of Papa. That means the absolute most to me. Your sweet nature whenever you spoke about Papa and the way your eyes lit up every time you talked about him is something I'll always hold on to. You can go and rest with him now, Nana. Thank you for being you and loving me the way that you did. I'll love you forever.
Awesome. Kia ora. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kelly, or Kellyanne, as many of the family know me. I'm the eldest grandchild. I know. Growing up, these words come to mind when thinking about Nana. Firm, stern, proper, elbows off the table and sit quietly. She was of that stoic Kiwi generation where children were seen and not heard, feelings weren't discussed much, and etiquette was paramount. I still remember been horse riding one day and saying, "Oh, I've got a sore bottom," to which she promptly replied, "Posterior, dear, posterior." Growing up and being a mum has given me another view on Nana though. You see, I'm 42 now, with 2 girls, Maya, who's 6, and Charlotte, who's 4. And as Mum mentioned, at just 1 year older, my Nana, Jean Kathleen Brown, mum of 6, became Nana. And you see, there is simply no way that I am ready to be a Nana at my age. Not at all. So no wonder she was suitably unimpressed. You see, I'm busy enough running around after my own two gorgeous girls, as Nana was, with Susie and Nikki still being at home, just 4 and 7. So it's no wonder that I don't have that many memories of her growing up or photos. But when I sat down to write this, I realised that I have many vivid memories from her place, from 12 Sharon Place. I remember playing fairies in the backyard with Nikki. Well, that was until she was 8 and too cool to put on her imaginary fairy wings with me anymore. I remember smelling Papa's lavender bush, sitting under the mandarin trees out the back. I remember riding on the rocking horse on Nana's front porch. I even remember sitting in Susie's room with textbook in hand while Auntie Susie, probably aged 14, explained to me about the birds and the bees. Now, as a mum, I know that someone hosted those days, that behind the scenes, Nana was present, doing her thing, feeding us snacks, albeit outside on the lawn, so we wouldn't spill anything inside. And as you guys have said, often Papa was the life of the party, but Nana was always there, the quiet one. Christmas celebrations were big. We have a big whānau. And every year, every child wanted a slice of that Christmas pudding, hoping to find that special hidden coin inside. And of course, we all did. And someone was there, making it happen. Even these days, where fathers are so much more involved in running the household, I'm sure many of you will agree that it's us mamas that hold it all together. I see my children hanging on their dad's every word as he reads Famous Five to them at night, knowing that I was the one that got the book, and that when they loved that first book, I was the one that looked for the whole set so they could enjoy it together with him. So I understand Nana that little bit more, because behind the scenes, more often than not, there's one hard-working mama or Nana. I remember chatting to Nana one time when she described her life in Palmy, when Nana and Papa ran that bakery. Having just had a child, Nana would be up at least before 5 at the shop when the door opened at 6, newborn behind the counter on the bassinet, and when it was quiet, she'd pop out back to feed Bubs. No maternity leave those days. Definitely one hard-working mama. And more recently, I got a few more glimpses into her life as a child. When she was telling me about, we were talking about Maya starting school, and she was telling me about how sick she was at the start and how she missed many, many months of that first year, and just how hard it was for her to go and make friends then and for many, many years after, because she was really quite shy. Another time she was sharing with me how hard life was when her dad left at a young age and the church shunned her family and her mum. The church has made so many mistakes in the past, often missing that Jesus' ministry was all about love, about binding up the wounds of the brokenhearted, about being a father to the fatherless, about giving hope. So it was wonderful to hear and see how, despite what the church full of fallible humans did, Nana and Papa found a personal relationship with Jesus and developed a real deep relationship with him, and especially in their later years. It was more than religion, it was real, which does make today that little bit easier, because I know I'll see Nana again. In Revelations 21, I love how it describes our future together. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes and eliminate death entirely. No one will mourn or weep any longer. The pain of wounds will no longer exist, for the old order has ceased. Actually, that was another special memory last year when I got to sit with Nana and just read the Bible to her on one of her many trips to hospital. And it was cool because Nana asked me to write down that psalm so that she could look it up and read it again later. Another memory I have of Papa and Nana when I come back from university, and I said, "So, how did you two meet?" And Papa telling me about being at the church dance and looking across the room and seeing Nana there smiling. And there she was, sitting, smiling again. That day I also got introduced to Nana's cheeky side, which I had not even known existed, which you've heard a little bit about today. Nana told me about that time she went home to meet Papa's mum, riding on the motorcycle, which of course was not the done thing back then, because she was wearing trousers, and a lady did not ride on a motorcycle. So there are many stories and many sides to Nana, some shared today, others tucked away in our hearts, and many more still untold. But truthfully, the more I have seen and heard, the more I've understood and loved. I am so grateful to have had so many years to spend with Nana, to get to introduce her to my girls, her great-grandchildren, and to have the privilege and years to sit and listen to some of her stories. Nana, you were always there, albeit sometimes behind the scenes, and I have loved seeing you soften and getting to understand those layers. And as Hayley reminded me of Papa and your saying, every day, in every way, we love each other more and more. I'll miss you, Nana.
She was a mother, auntie, great Nana, great auntie, but to me, she was my Nana. She was there for me. She was there for me through my ups and downs. She was a very kind and courageous woman who inspired me to be better. This is not a goodbye. This is a thank you for coming into my life and loving me. You will have a place in my heart forever. Mum would tell me about when I was a baby. She would hold me close and rock me to sleep. And now I would lie on her chest, remembering all the great times we've had together as I held her frail hand. Nana was my number one supporter. When I went to Melbourne for a dance competition, every single time I saw her in the audience with Uncle Fred on one side and Auntie Joan on the other. I remember from a few years back, when Nana would go to the hospital, I would sit down and choose from a variety of teddies which one would go up to hospital with her for the night to stay. And not that long after that, she got Bunny. Bunny has gone to the hospital many times with Nana to make sure she wasn't alone. When Nana passed away, she was holding onto Bunny's ear in one hand and Mum's hand in the other. My brother would come home from school and go straight into Nana's lounge to talk to Nana. When Nana was in the hospital the second to last time, he would still go into Nana's lounge and ask me, "Is Nana home yet?" Sadly, I would say, "Not yet." When Nana decided to stay at Hodgson House, Tamel asked Mum if Nana would still come home for Christmas. My sister thought that she would like to go to heaven so that she could be with Nana. I watched Nana fade away. She fought so hard to stay here, but when I saw her sleeping peacefully, I had realised it was for the best. It's been so hard to lose my Nana, but I know you're up there in heaven with Papa, Uncle Calvin and others looking down on us. She is now in my heart where she will always be.
Ashley, Chantel, Kelly and Tatiana. thank you for sharing the gift that you looked upon as your Nana. The times you spent with her, the times you shared with her. And Ashley, thank you for sharing about, you talked about the poem of a garden. And if you see on her casket, Ena Puti Puti Atahua, beautiful flowers. And inside, there is another beautiful flower, and that is your Nana. Chantal, thank you for sharing your memories. The time also that you spent with your Nana. The skills that she shared with you. The meals that you ate with her. And Kelly, also thank you for coming to share your memories of your relationship with your Nana. You talked about her relationship with Jesus, that it is a relationship. And Tatiana, thank you for sharing your memories as well. That for the four of you and for all of you as grandchildren, she taught you about Jesus first, loving him. So thank you for each of you as you have represented the grandchildren. Kia hoa hepara, ko ia hei mea kia tākatu ahau e na wahi taru taru hau, which means the Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. And that was written by a man by the name of King David from Psalm 23, and Glennis is going to come and share that with us.
Mum wanted this because she'd learnt it when she was 12, and it was also in the front of I offered to say it because it was in front of the first Bible that Mum and Dad gave me, and I'd learnt it as well. Psalm 23 from the King James Version. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Thank you, Glennis, for sharing that Bible reading from the King James Version, Psalm 23. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, as what your mum and your Nana is doing right now. We're now going to take a time of reflection. We're going to look at the screen and see a photo montage accompanied by a special song from Ed Sheeran. Let's now enjoy this time of reflection.
I wish that heaven were visiting hours, so I could just show up and bring the news that she's getting older. And I wish that you'd met her, the things that she'll learn from me, I got them all from you. I just stay a while and we'll put all the world to rights. The little ones will grow and I'll still drink your favorite wine. Soon going to close, but I'll see you another day. So since you've been away. Well, I wish that heaven visiting hours, so I could just swing by and ask your advice. What would you do in my situation? I haven't a clue how I'd even raise them. What would you do? 'Cause you'd always do what's right. If we just took a while until my worries disappear, I'll tell you that I'm scared of turning out a failure. You say, remember that the answer's in the love that we create. So much has changed since you've been away. Visiting hours, and I would ask them if I could take you home. But I know what they say, that it's for the best. So I will live life the way you taught me and make it on my own. Well, I will close the door and I will open up my heart. Everyone I love will know exactly who you are. 'Cause this is not goodbye, it is just till we meet again. So much has changed since you've been away.
Tell me, what does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone away? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth everything's different. There's an emptiness. Oh, I hope you're dancing in the sky. I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived. Tell me, what do you do up in heaven? Are your days filled with love and light? Is there music? Is there art and invention? Tell me, are you happy, more alive? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth
Jean Kathleen Brown. Wonderful memories that we've just observed on the screen of who you were, who you are, and who you will continue to be. Wonderful songs chosen too, I might add. Visiting hours. You as a family had opportunity to visit while she was your mum. You would go and visit her at home. She would come and visit you. And then in her final days, you spent visiting hours. Did you see the newspaper about the birth of your mum? No visiting for 7 days? Whoa. But you were unlimited in your visiting. And let me tell you, the time that you were visiting your mum, so was Jesus. And guess what? He called her home to be in his home. Visitors. And also that second song that she can sing with the angels. Sing of her praise to her Heavenly Father. In a moment we are going to share, or Blair will come forward and share from Philippians 4, an epistle written by the Apostle Paul. And then we will share in our second song, which is Because He Lives. And I ask that you remain standing while we offer the words of committal and commendation, and then a blessing. And then we will call our funeral director, Don Ford, as we sing the hymn, Amazing Grace. And during the time of Amazing Grace, the pallbearers will come and carry Jean's casket out to the hearse. Again, an opportunity to gather outside to say farewell. And then grandies are going to let loose on their bubbles. And the hearse will move away, and then family invite you back into the social hall to share again over further fellowship of time, a cup of tea, coffee, juice, and something to eat. So Blair, would you come and read to us, please?
Philippians 4, verses 4 to 9 and 11b to 13. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through him who gives me strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair, for sharing that from Philippians 4, a wonderful epistle written by Paul, actually while he was in prison, where he said, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. And then, of course, verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So now you have the strength to stand and sing because he lives. God sent his Son because he lives. How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the pride and joy he gives. But greater still, the calm assurance can face today because he lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know all's the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. And then one day I'll cross that river, I'll fight life's fight, oh, war with me. And then as death gives way to victory, I'll see the lights of glory, and I'll know he lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know who holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. Today we have shared memories. We have celebrated the life of Jean Kathleen Brown. So Jean, we thank you for your life. We thank you for your gifts and skills of being a sister, a loved wife, a much loved mum, a cherished and loved and treasured nana, a mother-in-law, an auntie, whatever your relationship is with Jean, she has been that to you. And so today we have put into this service 85 years of your living. So we thank you for that. We thank you for the gift that you have shared with us. But also we thank you for the gift that you accepted as a woman, the gift of Jesus. And so today we commit your physical body to be cremated. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. And may you this day, Jean Kathleen Brown, rest in peace. May you rest with your husband Dennis. May you rest with your son Kelvin. And those who have gone before you, may you rest in peace. Above all, may you be held safely in the palm of your Creator's hands. May he hold you safe as we commend you into God's care and keepings. For each of you today, from Numbers 6:23, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up the countenance of his love, his light, his peace upon you, Jean's family, and those who are here today, and those, Chris, those who are watching from Australia. May you also know God's peace today. Jean, moi mai, moi mai, moi mai. Moi mai rote na ringa te atua, that you rest well in God's hands. Amen. On your back page is the song Amazing Grace, and we are going to sing that. And during second or third verse, our funeral director Don will walk forward and the pallbearers will carry Jean out to the hearse.